the podcast for high capacity women who lead publicly. Welcome to Recreation Conversations, the podcast for high capacity women who lead publicly but long to reset privately. I'm your host, LaTashia Martin, trusted advisor and founder of the VonSwy Recreation Station. Each week, we hold honest conversations to help you reset, refocus, and rise in life, business, and faith. Let's get into today's episode. Already. It's okay. I have to edit anyways. And so hold on one second, Felicia. I'm going to take you out. I'm going to be editing this. And then, my goodness gracious, I know you're laughing. The first one. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of VonSwy Recreation Conversations. I'm so excited about today's guest. I know her as an amazing woman of God, but today we have our Felicia A. Lane, who is the pastor of PHLOW Church in Buffalo, New York. She is a certified life coach and founder of Knowing My Worth, Inc., a nonprofit that mentors teen girls and women. As the author of Knowing My Worth and her most recent publication, Don't Let Your Trauma Become Your Treasure, can both be found on Amazon. Felicia is a passionate about helping kingdom-minded, purpose-driven women and girls embrace their God-given identity, break free from self-doubt, and walk boldly in their divine purpose. So without further ado, we're bringing on our guest today, Felicia Lane. Hey, Felicia. Oh, my goodness. This is what I'm talking about. Ain't nothing working right. Hi, Felicia. Hi, Felicia. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm giggling because I said last week on the podcast, which was our debut, my son interviewed me, and I keep laughing because I've been live streaming forever. But when I think about all the pieces that have to go together, I'm always like, trying to make sure everything works well. But we are going to go forward. And so today in our conversation, I'm so excited to hear from you because you are one of the most real, transparent leaders who've walked through so many things in your personal and your professional life. And so today I want to just begin with our first question. And I'd like for you to share a moment when life pushed you to recreate yourself, either personally, professionally, or both.
Okay, so in regards to that question, I would say when life pushed me, and so I would say it started as a young woman. As for many who know my story as a young woman, I always had questions uh, in regards to who am I really? You know what I mean? Who am I really, God? You know what I mean? Because I just really was a people pleaser. Just spent most of my life living up to the expectations of people. And so I'll say that change, that pivotal change came about in 2015. 2015. 2015, I wrote my first book, Knowing My Worth. But just to go back, my first husband, was murdered in 2008. That was very traumatic. At the time, I had my 3 children. And I would even say in that relationship, that marriage, it was very crazy. It was very crazy. It was a choice that I made, but I went through, I can get into that long time down the road. But the change came in, I would say, 2015, where I was just like, okay, enough is enough. Like, girl, it's time for you to get your woman back. When are you going to truly know who you are? When are you going to stop? And I don't like this saying, faking it to make it, or pretending like you have it all together. And so I got the courage to write Knowing My Worth about just a portion of my story and what I've experienced, what I went through, how I experienced some breakthrough. And I would say that was the beginning of the journey. Because then I began to realize that, God was truly not through with me, and I'm still on the journey. But it started in 2015 when I wrote Knowing My Worth, to be a voice for the women, who are struggling to know their identity too. Because, I saw so many women out there like myself struggling to know their identity. And as a matter of fact, we were identifying ourselves by our brokenness, our past, and sometimes our achievements, or, what we do. And I just was like, this is exhausting. I'm like, God, I want to be free. I want to empower women to be authentic, to be unique, to know that they are worthy and they are always worthy. So I would say that is when it began.
That's so good. And I love that you even brought in that piece about when you were married. And I know this is not a question, but I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper to put in context. Even making that choice on who you married, right? Let us just know a little bit about the background, because I think when people hear that story, they immediately think you were that girl that was in the streets, grew up in the streets, doing things that way, and then found yourself in that place. And so I know a little bit because I read the books and I know a little bit about you, but I think that's really important because some women who would hear your story now might not necessarily identify, thinking that, not that we judge, but we do. She landed there because she lived this way. And I know that's not your truth. So if you could just take a couple of minutes and share with people the context of how you found yourself in that marriage, knowing how you grew up.
Yes. So, yeah, I don't want to say grew up in church, but it's just, been in church in that setting, right? Majority all of my life. And so, all I knew was church. I'm gonna tell you, all I knew was church. And it was just church Sunday, church Tuesday, church Friday, church Sunday night, it was just revivals, this is that. And so I would say, and it's not that my mom didn't educate or talk to me and my sisters about guys. It was just I wanted a life that I wasn't even really ready for. You get what I'm saying? It's like
Yes.
sometimes are that good girl, right? You get caught up and attracted to, back then we would say the rough dudes, or they say the YNs. And so, I was the YNs now, but I just said, for me, it was just like, oh man, I felt like that was boring, right? Just being in church, right, was boring. And at the time, I was not saved. I was not saved. I want people to know that I was not saved. And just because you're in church, that doesn't mean you know Jesus, right? It doesn't mean you know Jesus. But the one thing I will say, I wish I had been talked to more, right, about what to look out for in regards to as a man, how a man should treat you, what should I expect, how to value myself. And again, I want people to know, this is not, but it's just like these are some things that I needed to hear from my father. You know what I mean? And I did not hear that. And so as a result, I just went looking for love in the wrong places. Looking for love in the wrong places. And I'll let you know, when I met my first husband, I just said, this is just fun for me. This is just fun. I'm just having fun. Again, because I felt like I was sheltered. All I knew was church. And so when I turned 18, it was like, whoo, my God, this is what I've been missing. And I'm telling, listen, y'all, didn't drink, didn't go to clubs or anything. But when I turned 18, a whole 360. I'm telling you, it was a whole 360. I started drinking, smoking weed, just hanging out. I didn't even hit the clubs yet, y'all. I ain't hit the clubs up. 22, 23. I didn't even hit the clubs yet. And so I met my first husband, and again, it was strictly just off emotions, y'all. Off emotions. I don't even want to, just emotions and feelings. I just felt like I was in love. And here's another dangerous thing. I felt like I could make him a better person.
That's good right there. That's good right there.
That is one of the things when I talk to women. It's like, listen, you can't build a man. I don't care how, you cannot build a man. You cannot make him be what he needs to be, or even what you want him to be, because you got to be careful with that. For once, in my opinion, that's manipulation. You can't make him be. And then it's like, for me, I felt like, well, without me, how would he make it? I make him a better man. I need to be in his life. And I'm gonna tell y'all, even up until the day we got married, and here's another thing, we eloped, y'all. We
So
eloped.
your mama daddy didn't even know what was going on. I love it.
That's even there. Oh my Lord. And so I knew I shouldn't have done it. But again, I allowed the lies of the enemy, anxiousness to tell me, oh, it's never going to happen. You won't, because I didn't know my value. I did not know my worth. I didn't see myself as God sees me. I just fed into the lies of, oh, you'll never find love like this again. It won't happen. You know what I mean? This is the best you're going to get. This is what you deserve because of the, just the my experience, and again, how I live. Just reckless. I'll just be honest, reckless as a young lady, just promiscuity, just different things like that. And so I married him. I married him, and my mother warned me. My mother warned me in every way she could. Just wait, just wait. I don't want to wait. I would think we know better. And I got into marriage, and I tell anybody from day one, it was like, ooh, okay, Lord, get me out of this. I cried a lot of tears. Had a lot of frustration, was very angry. But, and I will say this, Mary was still functioning as if everything was okay. But I was so broken and in pain. So yeah. Yeah, that's how.
Yeah, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's so important because people need to sometimes put in context, especially our women. They see where we are right now. They don't really know that journey. And I think that in the context of, since faith is one of those lenses that I walk with, is why we need to have the real conversations with the ladies in the church, right? Because the things that we say, and I want to keep it real, in that moment, when you were in those emotions, let's be 100. It didn't all feel bad.
It
It
didn't.
didn't all feel bad. And I think
Oh,
that's the misconception, especially in today's age where these young ladies have all this information and can create these false narratives looking at these celebrities inside and outside of the church, believing one thing and not knowing the full truth. Now that takes us to the next step in the process. So you talked about the moment that was the pivotal moment. Now, what I would like for us to just unpack a little bit, if we could, is talking about that recreation process. Share with us a little bit, like we don't want to give them all the goods, they got to go get the books, right? But share with us a little bit about that process. And then how did you use community and accountability as a part of that? Because we know we can't do these things on our own. So I would love to hear your perspective on that.
yeah. So the first step in the process, LaTashia, it was acknowledging, right? Putting a voice to it. And I think that's, where I see a lot of us women, we're suffering in silence because we're afraid of being shamed, right? We're afraid of being ridiculed, or we're just, it's for not just shame, it's pride. It's pride because we want to carry this certain image. And I'm just like, God, we are dying. And so for me, it was just be it having the courage to say, you know what, Lord, somebody needs to hear my story. Someone needs to know that, like you said, oh, you don't have it all together. And that's why, one of the t-shirts I have created just is don't judge me by my pretty, because many times we see a pretty face, you know what I mean? And we just think, oh, they could never have issues. Oh, but you don't know me, just because I'm dressed up on the outside and the inside I'm shattered. I'm so broken and torn, but I don't know who to go to or a safe space. But, in order for me to find that safe space, I had to realize, and I heard this from somebody else, and this was so good, that I had to be a safe space for myself. I had to be a safe space for myself. And so just to realize that, listen, it is okay. You know what I mean? This is not the end of your story. We are changing the narrative. And so let's put a voice to this. And so the first step was acknowledging that, listen, I'm not okay. I'm in pain. This is it. This is here. And then, again, asking for help. Woo, ask help. Um, that was, I was known to hold a lot in, just harbor in a lot, because I just felt like no one will understand. You know how we feel into no one will understand, no one gets me, they won't get it. Oh Lord, you know what I mean? And I had a strong this issue with trusting people. You know what I mean? You confide in people who you think have your best interest at heart, and you end up being betrayed. And so, I had to ask for help. I had to ask for help, and I just want people to know that asking for help, it it looks different than how we think it is. And so I had to get outside of that box. And so I had to ask for help from people that I was not familiar with.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes familiarity can keep us in a cave, right?
Yes.
Because it's like, these people, they're familiar with you, and then let's be honest, they share this, they resonate. And sometimes instead of catapulting and pushing us, they co-sign the foolishness. You know what I mean? And so I had to and that required maturity. Again, that required acknowledging, okay. And so I began to ask for help, just when I work meeting with different coworkers, and they just helped me on that journey, asking for help. I hadn't even and even with asking for help, I was getting counseling for my children, right? Getting counseling for my sons, and my daughter for, in regards to the loss of my first husband. But I never considered me, because I felt like, well, I got to be there for them. I got to do this. I got to do this. And it was just one session where the therapist said, okay, I'm hearing about the boys and your daughter and what they've been through. Let's talk about you. And that was like, oh,
Yes.
and so when I began to, share with her, she said, oh my gosh, you've been through a lot. And she just began to, Mom, it's okay to ask for help. And that's when to ask for help and to just, talk about it, and not just talk about it. Let's find solutions, right? Because we recycling pain. We want, because I'm big on that. I don't want to be in communities that's, created and surrounded with pain, but we want to promote healing and wholeness. And so those are the steps: just acknowledging it, putting a voice to it, asking for help, and then just one day at a time. One day at a time. One day at a time. I had to, learn self-compassion. Learn that when I, made a mistake or faltered or anything, it's just not to beat myself up, but just take it one day at a time. And I had to give myself, this is a big one too, permission to grieve.
Yes.
To grieve, because, I found myself just going and going and going. And many a times, when we get in a space, and some people, they don't know how to grieve, especially sometimes in some Black communities or Black families, we're just conditioned. They're okay, just keep going, you're gonna be all right. And sometimes, this some of the things that I heard that was said to me, well, keep it moving. God got you. And then it just got to a point where I hit a brick wall. And I'll never forget, and I always share this story. I was watching Tabitha. She's a hairstylist, and she used to have this show called Tabitha's Salon Makeover. And she
okay, wait, pause, time minute, because when people hear Tabitha, they immediately go to Tabitha Brown. You're talking about the Tabitha with the blonde hair with the makeover. So let's just clarify. So if somebody wants to Google or fact check who she's talking about, I know exactly who you're talking about. So yes.
That amazing hairstylist business owner, but she had a show. And she was on this show, and she was working with a mom who was a recent widow. She had children, and her husband, I believe, served in the military. But the one thing is, Tabitha was just watching her and watching her. And she said, we're going to go somewhere. She took the mom, and she took her to a beach. It was a beach setting. And she said, listen, I'm hearing your story about how you're there for everybody else. You're taking care of your children. You're doing what you need to do, trying to keep your business afloat. You're doing this. She said, have you grieved? Mm-hmm. And the young woman said, well, I just didn't feel like I had time to, because I had to be there for everybody else. And she said, I want you to give yourself permission to grieve. That was a breakthrough for me like no other. Give yourself permission to grieve. It is okay. You experienced a loss, a great loss. And not just with him, but it was others. My grandfather passed in 2007, and then my first husband passed in 2008. And you're talking about two, key people in my life, you know what I mean? That I'm just like, I'm going on with, we strong, the Lord got it. And it's just like, God, but I'm saying. And God is like, it's okay. I'm not intimidated by your emotions or your feelings. Just give it all to me. And so that was key to giving myself permission to grieve. And I've learned that there's even what they talk about, the 12 steps to grieving is not linear. You get what I'm saying? It's not linear. So I don't even get caught up in that 12 steps. It's just like, God, help me to take it one day at a time through this process. And so that is how those were the systems, acknowledging, asking for help, giving myself permission to grieve, and just learning that it's not okay to be okay, but keep moving forward. Don't stay stuck.
Yeah, you said some key things that I think are like critically important that we resonate with, because one of the words that's like a trigger to me, because it's one of my defaults, is when we see our strong friends and we think that they're like superhuman. One of my telltale signs is when you look at someone and they say, "I'm okay." And people
Mhm.
are like, "Okay." Or when you say you're not okay, people not acknowledging that because you're the strong friend, right? Or to use that other piece, like I have a really strong personal relationship with God. What I don't need when I'm in those spaces of vulnerability is somebody slapping some scripture or some cliche term on me and thinking if I won't rock with that, then my relationship's not deep enough with God. When we
Mhm.
look at what Christ emulates, as he came down with flesh on, was that ability to show humanness, right? So if Jesus wept, right, the scripture everybody throws out there, if Jesus wept, or if Jesus went into places where he said, "Remove this cup from me," like those are specific moments of him having those authentic, emotional, human responses to things that are very hard. And so I
Yes.
love that you shared these steps with them. I just want to recap real quickly. You said acknowledging it, like what it really is, right? And putting a
Yes.
voice to what it really feels like. So if you're like, "I am hurting" or "I am sad," like putting a voice to that emotion and then asking for that help in those safe spaces. And then what you even said too, like you can't be like, what does they say, a chief in your own environment. And it takes you to be in places that are uncomfortable because people will co-sign on your crazy. That's one of my favorite terms. They will co-sign on your crazy. And if you want to deviate, then they want to say you're not okay. And so loving to go into those communities with unfamiliar people and one day at a time, and then permission to grieve, and knowing that grieve doesn't necessarily mean that you had a physical loss, right? Because you could be making a recreation, because I'm
Yes.
trying to say I want to up level. Like I'm in this space, like my heart for Black women right now is like we are externally some of the strongest, but we are literally dying. Like I'm not even
Yes.
talking about the concept of I'm dying. No, we are literally dying and taking pills to mask the pain and the symptoms because we feel like we have to say those words, "I'm okay." And so this is for our strong girls or our strong women that we're saying are those high capacity women that we're saying are okay. Check on them today, y'all. They're not necessarily okay, but in a safe space that they can respond and then listen to what they're saying, what their actions and their behaviors are showing. So thank you so much for that, Felicia. I love that recap on that process. And so now what I want to do is go into that last question, right? So we've given some great information, some practical pieces. I do want to say she didn't include in there, but like you are a speaker. So the reason we wanted to have these conversations with different women is even though the three questions are the same, to your point, nothing is linear. So there might be that church girl, and I'm saying church girl, literally girl, hearing from you, and she may even have been at that college point where she had her breakthrough in college, discovered some stuff, and she's still at that place where it feels good, right? Because come on now, I really wish, I keep trying to tell y'all, when you old and you can't break it down and you can't drop it like it's hot and you can't do boots on the ground, church seems like the great alternative. But you can't tell young LaTashia or young Felicia when we still look cute and everybody's saying we look cute, or we can go to the club, and just because like when I was in the club I wasn't drinking, but it felt good to be in a club and the bad boy was like, "Oh, you look good," because they bringing a swag you didn't feel in church, right? They telling you words and making you feel ways that you didn't feel necessarily in those other environments. But even for the one who's in the church and you still got maybe the wrong people giving you that unhealthy attention, is bringing up some stuff. So if you had a chance right now to speak to the younger Felicia, where at any of those seasons where you think she could hear you, what would be that advice that you would give her today? Like that one step that she can take to help her maybe look at her circumstances differently, because she might be still in a place where Miss Felicia can't tell me nothing because she's saying that because she at this season, but I'm still over here. And maybe we even want to add in that redeeming grace because now you have a husband that is the different kind of man, right? So again, once you knew your worth, what you would tell her so that she could see, like, you got a good looking one now, but he is different. So if you could just share that piece of advice with that young Felicia at whatever age, but make sure you put it in context of where she is so she could hear you and see that relatability.
Yes, that's so good. Thank you, LaTashia. So, speaking to young Felicia, I would say to young Felicia, first and foremost, stop trying to fit in the box that people are trying to put you in. You know, we're created for more. That's one thing. One of the key things I would tell young Felicia: stop trying to fit in the box that others are trying to put you in, or even who I thought I needed to be for others. Stop trying to fit it. You were created for more. You were created for more. And of course, know your worth, know your value. And another key thing I would tell young Felicia: struggle love is not love. Struggle love is not love. And this is the one thing, and it's just for, don't settle, girls. Stop settling for, less than what you deserve because it's better than what you used to. You get what I'm saying?
Wait, say that one more time for the people in the back of the church.
For less than what you deserve because it's better than what you used to. Because you're still seeing yourself from a distorted lens. You get what I'm saying? And see, and it's like from there, it's like I felt like I wanted to take off. You still seeing yourself from a distorted lens. You still have a distorted image because you're worried about the how you present yourself to people, but you're still functioning in pain. And so I would just tell young Felicia, struggle love is not real love.
And I want you to say this one thing because again, this Felicia don't think she's struggling. She don't think she's struggling. So what does struggle love look like in a realness of 2025? What does struggle love look like? And how old is this young Felicia that you're talking to?
This young Felicia, I would say from the age of 18 to 32, 18 to 32. I'm talking about that young Felicia. Struggle love looks like, cheating, you know what I mean? Just infidelity in relationships. You get what I'm saying? Just, toxicity is so broad, and I feel like we need to pinpoint what that really means too. So struggle love is, taking care of somebody, when you're not, and allowing them to man up and be the man that they need to be, right? Taking care of them, you know what I mean? Paying bills, accepting infidelity and saying, oh, it's going to get better. Oh, it's going to get better. What is another one? Busting windows out the car. Come on here. Busting windows out the car. And here's a big one. Being, that ride or die, you know what I mean? And I don't want anyone to say, now this is the disclaimer, I'm not being judgmental or anything, but I always caution women on this too, because I've been through it. You get with men who are in prison, please release yourself. Please release yourself. Please release yourself. It's just, that's not love. It is not love. I'm holding it down. I'm holding it down. I'm showing him this is what love looks like. And it's like, that is actually not what love is.
Right.
It is not what love is. This person is supposed to add to your life, not take away from it. And so that's what I would tell her. Struggle love is not real love.
Yeah.
I constantly arguing. And here's the insecurity. Thank you, Lord. The insecurity. You shouldn't have to keep checking his phone. You don't need his password. And if he's asking you for your password to constantly check you, get out. Please get out. Please get out. It's not cute. I've been in just, the relationships where me being insecure and the guy being insecure. And it was crazy. And even to where it's like, I'm watching you. I'm threatening. You know what I mean? That struggle love is, and it's not cute, but unfortunately it's glamorized.
Yes.
It's glamorized, but we don't understand the damage it's doing to us emotionally, right? You know what I mean? Psychologically. And so it's just wearing you out. And, we think we got it all together and we think that this is it. When you look out, when you really wake up and realize, like, man, And I also say this, it was never a waste of time. It's only a waste of time as if you didn't learn from the experience.
Yes. And I think just to encourage them to the current day, Felicia, even knowing the new love story, right? Like, I love how you shared with me. I wasn't looking for it. Like, you were being whole, doing life. And so, if you
Yes.
could just wrap up today with just like we've now told her that struggle love isn't good. But I think even that, some of these women, they get hung up on the body count. Like, I'm staying with him because I don't want a high body count. I'm staying with him because he's broken me down so much and convinced me that, like, who else would want me, right? Because maybe my body don't look like my body looked when he got me, right? So I love that it wasn't the young, when we was looking at our bodies and still like not whatever, it was looking different, right? But just share with them, like, you weren't looking, but look, what did God do as a result of?
God, it was my husband, my first husband, excuse me, had been this since 2008. So 10 years, 10 years I had just been single. And I want to go back, you know what I mean? And it was, and I had been abstinent, y'all, abstinent for 6 years, 6 years, where I just said I had to shift my focus. I had to stop looking at single as being a curse. I had to stop looking at single as being a curse, and I had to stop, you know what I mean, making marriage like a goal, like that was the end of life, like that was the high priority. That's another thing. Thank you, LaTashia. I would tell young Felicia, like, that's not the goal. Marriage is like, why do you think that's the all in all, end all? It was like, you have so much life ahead of you. Pursue your dreams, your goals. And so when I met my now husband, it was just, I was not looking. I'm telling you, I was like, God, I'm good. Good. I find literally, and I know people laugh, and people who know me personally, it was like, I just had just looking straight ahead. I'm not even bothering. If you came and approached me and I'm like, okay, you about foolishness, I don't have time. And so my husband will tell you now, like, she wouldn't even talk to me. She wouldn't acknowledge me. And I tell you, he pursued me. He did. He pursued me. And again, God had to work on my heart, because it was just, I was like, okay, what's your intentions? What's your intentions? And then God was like, let me know, like, this is it. He's the one. And so my husband came in, and I'm telling you, women, it was just literally like a weight. Like, literally, I don't have to worry for anything. I could just say, and I'll just let you know, it's like I would just casually mention, a squirrel got in my house because there's a hole in the roof. And I pulled up one day, and it was somebody sealing up the hole. I'm like, who is this person? Oh, I sent them over there. You get what I'm saying? And so it's just literally not I say anything, it's just a weight. Like, I don't have to worry about anything. He adds. We add to each other. We add to each other. So he is such a blessing to me. I'm a blessing to him. And this is truly just love. And I always say, when I'm realizing now, love is great, but purpose is greater. Love is great, but purpose is greater in a marriage. Love is great, but purpose is greater.
Oh, that's good. And I think, even when you say the context of that, love is great, but purpose is greater. And I think for people who are, again, fantasizing, romanticizing what the world says is that ideal couple. When I think about love, being with my husband for over 30 years, I'm like, and it looks different. It's not that emotional. Like, I get excited that, oh my goodness, I garbage, take garbage out. Like, okay, take garbage out. Like things that you just take for granted that some people or some relationships don't even see that adding to. So if it's a take, or even reciprocal, because let's not get it twisted, right? Like, it's a give. It's not a give take. Because when we get into the give take and the scorekeeping, that's where it gets unhealthy. So when we're talking to that healthy and whole Felicia and LaTashia, I love what you're giving. He pursued you, right? The word says a man that finds a woman finds a good thing. So we got to even be careful when people are giving you all these advice on how you going to set yourself up and you need to chase. And you said marriage was not the goal. I was just being whole and healed. That's what you were working on. And then God sent the man or your husband that you have right now. So thank you so much, Felicia. I do want to say, just as a reminder, she has two books that are on Amazon right now: Knowing Your Worth and Don't Let Your Trauma Become Your Treasure by Felicia Lane on Amazon. You can get them there. I also know that she has an amazing nonprofit called Knowing Her Worth, and she is a coach. She is a motivational, not a transformational. I don't like motivational. A transformational speak. No, because okay, I'm gonna go on my tangent for 5 seconds. The reason I said yes to this work is I'm so tired of women coming together for emotional experiences that you've opened up, but you are not healed. You
Yeah,
open up, but you don't get the skills to be transformed. And I know that working with me is different because we're going to have us some goals. Now, we may not get to that goal, but we're going to see a different version, because if not, what are we doing? So that is Felicia. If young Felicia's story resonated with you and your audience and you want to have that speaker, how can they get in touch with you? If you could just give the website quickly.
Well, right now you can email me.
Okay.
You can email. No, I'm sorry. You can. The website is www.knowingmyworth.org, or you can email knowingmyworth@yahoo.com.
Okay.
Knowingmyworth@yahoo.com. Yes.
Yes. And you are active on Facebook. I see you there too. So you can always Google her name on Facebook and find her there. But I just want to say thank you for being an amazing guest today. I appreciate you. And I will talk to you soon. And I'm going to go ahead and close out by putting you back in the virtual green room. And we're going to close out, and I'll be right back in just a moment. So thank you so much for those of you who have listened to today's episode of our podcast, the Recreation Conversations. Again, my name is LaTashia Martin. If you want to be a guest on the Recreation Conversations, you can reach out by going to LaTashia115959.com/meet and inquire about being a guest on the show. And we want to thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the next episode of Recreation Conversations. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Recreation Conversations. I hope today's message reminded you don't have to do this alone. If you're ready for deeper connection, real conversations, and a private space to rise again, join us inside of the VonSwy Recreation Station. You can learn more and schedule a quick connection call at LaTashia115959.com/meet. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your story might be the spark another woman needs. Until next time, keep leading with faith, living in alignment, and remember, reset, refocus, and rise.